What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kick-Ass Podcast. As always, I hope you're having a fantastic either day, evening, night, whatever part of your day you're in. I hope it's good. And thank you for listening and downloading the show. I truly appreciate you guys. You can follow us on Twitter at @KickAssPodcast_. You can follow me at ASHMANNS. But we will not waste too much time. We'll definitely get into the show because we have a good variety of things to get into before we end up with the AEW Dynamite preview. Tonight is their Quake by the Lake show, and it is Quake by the Lake, not Quake at the Lake. I know I myself was getting hung up on that. I didn't know if we were by the lake, if we were at the lake, whatever we were doing. But it is Quake by the Lake, so we'll get into that main event. It should be pretty stellar, so we'll, like I said, definitely get into that as we wrap the show up today. But we would be remiss if we don't address the big elephant in the WWE world and the wrestling world again, which is more news stemming from the Vince McMahon, John Laurinaitis investigation from the board of directors and all that bullshit that's going on. So, of course, as timing has it, as I released and posted the live show that I did on Monday, legit maybe like 5 minutes after I posted it, the news broke out that John Laurinaitis had been terminated officially by WWE. So I'll get into that article specifically from PWIinsider.com, which I'll read their specific article. As I was reading it, I was just really just amazed and impressed by the kind of synopsis they did of his career. So I kind of wanted to read that out to you guys. I will try to be as brief and thorough with that as possible so we don't waste too much time here since, like I said, it is a stacked show. But we will, of course, obviously cover that. There's more story breaking, or more developments, rather, on the Vince McMahon side of everything as well. So we'll get into that. There's an update on the Royal Rumble location, possibly rumors for this year. Of course, we'll address Monday Night Raw and the big news coming out of that, or the big return. Big in my opinion. And then, yeah, like I said, we'll wrap it up with the AEW Dynamite. But we will start, of course, with the aforementioned news that John Laurinaitis has been terminated by WWE officially. We don't know the specific date yet, but PW Insider, and that was specifically from Mike Johnson, so shout out to him. He released and stated on this past Monday, August 8th, 2022, so if we're listening in the future, that several WWE sources reached out to confirm Laurinaitis has been officially quietly let go by the company. We were told, of course, reading from their article, we were told that the termination happened within the last week or so, and it was, for obvious reasons, being kept very quiet beyond a very small circle. They are looking to confirm when the departure took place, but every source to a person made it clear Laurinaitis was let go. And then I'm going to kind of just read verbatim, or as close to verbatim if I don't fuck anything up, from exactly their article here. And that's what I was saying. It was just really cool, the kind of rundown of his career. I personally it wasn't anything shocking to me, but it was just kind of a cool recap. And if any of you aren't too familiar with where he even came from, it's kind of like a nice little, quick little, like, I don't want to say fun facts because this shit isn't fun, but a nice little fact sheet for you. So we'll start here. They started pretty much, let me go back to it, yeah. And again, guys, this is directly from PWInsider.com. It's just look at the article, John Laurinaitis terminated by WWE, if you want to go back and read it for yourself, because it's just pretty much some pretty cool information. So they start with saying, quote, Laurinaitis had been with WWE from March 2001 on after their acquisition of WCW. Let me move that ad. Okay. During his time performing for All Japan Pro Wrestling as a wrestler, Laurinaitis became well respected for his ability to put together great finishes, leading to Eric Bischoff recruiting him for that role in WCW towards the end of that promotion's existence. When WWE purchased the remnants of World Championship Wrestling in 2001, Laurinaitis moved to the company. By June 2001, Laurinaitis was elevated into the role of Director of Talent Relations, although at the time some of the job's responsibilities, including payouts, were still handled by Jim Ross. By March 2009, Laurinaitis became the Executive Vice President of Talent Relations. His duties shifted when Paul Levesque, also known as Triple H, moved into that side of the company, with Laurinaitis reporting to Levesque as the Senior Vice President of Talent Relations. In 2012, Laurinaitis was demoted to working as one of the company's head producers. It was never made clear at the time why the shift happened, but it was revealed, earlier this year by the Wall Street Journal that the timing of that demotion lines up with an alleged $1.5 million non-disclosure agreement reached in 2012 with an employee involving misconduct claims against Laurinaitis. Laurinaitis was returned to his former position, now titled General Manager, Talent, returning to head up the company's Talent Relations Division in March 2021. He also regularly appeared on WWE reality series Total Bellas, which I'll touch on in a second, and had a run as a heel on-screen executive as well that saw him return to the ring in 2012 against John Cena and other baby faces. Laurinaitis' exit from the company was all but certain after the Wall Street Journal reported that the WWE Board of Directors were investigating an alleged $3 million payout made by Vince McMahon in January 2022 to a former WWE employee who had a sexual relationship with him. The initial Wall Street Journal article noted, quote, "The board's investigation, which began in April, has unearthed other older non-disclosure agreements involving claims by former female WWE employees of misconduct by Mr. McMahon." This ad is really in the way. Sorry. By Mr. McMahon and one of his top executives, John Laurinaitis, the head of WWE or talent relations at WWE, the People said. The journal couldn't determine how many previous agreements were scrutinized. The board's outside counsel was still collecting information about the other NDAs this week, but has determined that the payouts totaled in the millions of dollars, the People said, unquote. And let's see here. PW Insider continued on by stating, quote, "The article states that the board of directors learned of the allegations when they received an email from a friend of the former employee in March. The email claimed the employee was hired with a $100,000 salary that doubled once she began a relationship with McMahon. The Wall Street Journal report noted, quote, "The email to the board also alleged that Mr. McMahon gave her like a toy to Mr. Laurinaitis," end quote there. They continued on stating that was the beginning of the end for Laurinaitis, who went on immediate administrative leave. To this date, he has not publicly commented on the allegations, and WWE has not officially announced Laurinaitis' departure. PW Insider is also told that the company's board of directors investigation is still ongoing at this time. Alright guys, so a lot to kind of dissect there. I'm not going to pinpoint and like really dissect anything there. I think it's pretty much point blank and pretty transparent. It's just a lot of information to kind of mull over and really digest, rather. It's just, and that kind of blends in with the additional story from Vince McMahon, which I guess I'll just kind of bring up here now as well. Variety released a statement yesterday, it looks like. The title of the article stated, WWE says Vince McMahon, under investigation for alleged misconduct, made personal payments totaling $19.6 million. So the total has obviously risen. They go on to say Vince McMahon's off-the-books personal payments that he made while chairman and CEO of WWE were higher than previously reported, the company said. Last month, the wrestling entertainment company announced that it would revise its financial statements going back to 2019 to account for $14.6 million of, quote, certain payments, unquote, that McMahon made while chairman and CEO should have been recorded as expenses, which is interesting. They continued stating that was 3 days after McMahon said he was retiring from WWE, which he announced amid an ongoing investigation by the company's board into allegations that he paid millions of dollars in hush money to multiple women to keep quiet about affairs and other misconduct. It continues on just to kind of reiterate the beginnings of the SEC filing. And it does continue to say here, quote, WWE disclosed that since the July 25th announcement, it had discovered that McMahon made 2 additional payments totaling $5 million, unrelated to the allegations that led to the board's special committee investigation in 2007 and 2009, which also should have been recorded in the company's consolidated financial statements. WWE did not provide details on McMahon's $5 million in payments or what they were for, rather. So that obviously brings the now total up to the 19.6, which was in their headline there. And guys, this just continues to get messier and messier. Look, I've already addressed probably my take on it a few times now. It's just shitty, you know, and it's a shame that they're going down like this, but I don't even want to call it karma, but what's done in the darkness comes to light, and I truly believe that. I'm a firm believer in that, kind of why I believe in karma as well. But, and look, again, none of us are perfect, but this shit's like a whole nother level, right? Like, we can say nobody's perfect and, like, by accidentally, like, running a stop sign, not paying attention, like, doing shit that we know we shouldn't do, but that's a whole nother level, right? Like, that's just, like, I'm happy he resigned, he retired, whatever he wants to officially call it, obviously a retirement, but it is obviously a point to be made that he is still the majority stock and shareholder, so he's obviously still owns the company. So at the end of the day, he still has final say-so, but he has removed himself. No breaking news here from creative and everything like that in the day-to-day operations as CEO, so he's not involved in that aspect, but it's still, at the end of the day, his company, so in a lot of respects, I am glad that he, out of nowhere, did his retirement. But yeah, guys, it's just, part of me isn't surprised, but it's just like, damn, like, it sucks, and it goes back, it makes me think, like, what if that email was never sent in? I'm pretty certain none of this would be, or obviously this wouldn't be happening, but Vince McMahon would still be in power. Nothing would be changing in the wrestling world for WWE right now with Triple H in charge. It wouldn't be a thing. So it's just, I give a lot of kudos to whoever sent in that email and whoever brought all this to light, because while I'm not going to get into a lot of aspects of it, at the end of the day, right is right and wrong is wrong. You're a grown-ass man. You know what you're doing is wrong. You're the owner of a billion-dollar company. You are the CEO. You're the chairman. You're the end-all, be-all. Like, yes, they may be agreeing, or it may be consensual, right? But it's still, you have a level of influence over the people that you're interacting with, the women that you're interacting with. So you can, look, everyone out there has their own opinion on everything, but facts are facts, and the facts that the payout sum keeps adding up is just, and I'm sure this is nowhere, even, I'm sure, let's say they concluded their investigation at the end of this week, and they found some more money, and they came to a total of 25 million, right? Or even if you want to just say in their investigation this weekend, they find that the 19.6 is all that they have come across that can't be accounted for. I guarantee you, there is other money out there that dude spent, like, you're just off the books. You know what I mean? Like, this dude is a billionaire, right? I'm not sure if he was ever officially classified, but come on, like, I don't know. I'm just, my personal, like, wrestling feelings aside, and an appreciation for what he did for the wrestling world, I'm glad he's gone, and I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that. And it sucks, but like I said, what you do in the darkness comes to light. And if you're doing shitty stuff, or if you're doing stuff that isn't right, like, shit's gonna come back to you. So yeah, I'm just thinking about, God, like 19.6 million, like, man, like, I just, as like a comic folk like myself, like, I couldn't even imagine spending 19.6 million on shit like that. Like, I just, to each their own, if I had disposable income like that, like, I would probably do stupid shit, but I definitely wouldn't, I don't know, I'm not saying I'm any better, but, like, I know for a fact I wouldn't be spending it on that shit. Like, I can find plenty of other legal and beneficial, and I guess nothing he's done is illegal, but moral things to do with the 19.6. Is that just spending it on, like, hush money, man? It's like, damn, like, I don't know, even if you do have this, and that's what kind of blows me too, like, even if you do have disposable money, like, especially for someone like Vince, who, I mean, if you listen to his stories, he grew up in, like, a trailer park and all that, so according to him, he came from not so great beginnings, right? And he wasn't born into money and didn't have, like, a silver spoon and all that. So it's like, just taking this one specific scenario and story, and just kind of looking at it in a microscope here, like, I just still, like, I just still can't imagine being okay with just blowing 19.6 mil on shit like that, and the majority of it is in hush money. So it's like, damn, like, bro, like, I don't know, like, I don't know. I obviously wasn't there. I don't know the situation and the circumstances, but it's like, my dude, like, I don't know. maybe I should just wrap it up here because there's just so many. The more I talk about it, the more questions I have, and the more perplexing it is to me that someone can blow that much money. And I know there's other people, other billionaires out there who have blown 10 times that probably, on shit like this. But it's still like never ceases to amaze me with like any type of story like this. It's just like, guys, like, can you imagine like having that much money and just being able to blow it on shit like that and just like not thinking twice, and obviously not thinking twice because dude did it multiple times. As we're finding out, the sum keeps going up and up and up. So I can't even imagine. But that obviously is something that we definitely needed to kind of address here and just get that negativity, I guess, or dark cloud out of the way and move on to other topics here. But of course, as more information breaks out, we will address it here. Yeah, 19.6, guys. Can you imagine? Anyway, moving on. We have an update on the possible location for the Royal Rumble this year, which of course it will be held, well, technically next year, for January 2023. And I was a little bummed, guys, I'm not going to lie, when I read. And of course things can change, this is a rumor, but normally when we get a report like this, it's almost 100% certain. They have reported that WWE officials are reportedly looking at bringing the Royal Rumble back to Texas. A new report from PW Insider notes that San Antonio looks to be the location for the 2023 Royal Rumble Premium Live event. At least that's the word going around WWE headquarters this week. That has been rumored for a few months now. WWE has previously held the Royal Rumble at the 64,000 seat Alamo Dome in 1997. Some of these ads, I'm sorry guys, some of these ads on some of these websites just crack me up. That's my ADD for you. It was held there in 1997 and 2017. WWE announced attendance of 60,477 in 97 and 52,020 in 2017. There's no word yet on when WWE will be announcing details for the Rumble, but it should be within the next few months or so, obviously, since we're getting closer to that event. And they do go on to note that the 2022 Royal Rumble Premium Live event was held at the Dome in America's Center in St. Louis, Missouri, with an announced attendance of 44,390. And shout out to WrestlingHeadlines.com for that article there. But yeah, I just feel like if it's not Chicago, it's Texas lately. I feel like in like the wrestling world. And I just kind of want to break from both, you know? Like, no offense to you guys, but it's just like, and I say that being in Florida, right? Like, we got a shit ton of events here, and we just got Revolution for AEW in March, so I know when to talk. I'm not even saying it should be held here, but just go somewhere else, man, you know? Like, just get out of Texas and Chicago for both companies. So just wanted to touch on that really quick and just kind of throw that out there. So if you were in Texas or you like traveling to Texas, then that's a good sign for you. And hey, happy for you guys. But we will move on to what happened on Monday Night Raw this past week. I thought it was a really fun episode, so I definitely wanted to touch on that here. If you haven't been watching, I definitely recommend you do so, WWE at least. I think with the new era, the Triple H era, whatever we're gonna call it, it's so exciting, guys, and you just really look forward to watching each show. And at least for me, I guess I should speak for myself, but that seems to be the general consensus out there. Like, it's just a different vibe, a different electricity, a different feel. I'm not saying that it's like, not even saying that each show has been like, oh my god, like must see, like you can't miss. But in the same token, I feel like it kind of is, maybe to like a lesser extent. I feel like it's really fun to see what changes the new regime and the new management team are going to implement, and what Triple H's vision for wrestling and WWE and each show particularly is, and what he wants to do with each character. And I think we've seen a lot of little things, right? Specifically with Ciampa this past week on Raw, that really stood out to me. It got me, guys. Like, I kind of thought Ciampa was going to win the U.S. title here. I'm not really sure if it was going to be like a clean victory, which I really didn't think it was going to. I wasn't leaning in that route. I kind of pegged him, if we were going to get a Ciampa victory and new champion out of it, that The Miz was going to interfere and kind of get something out of that. And that's mainly because of the build that they did for Ciampa in such a short amount of time. I think they really, between last week, the video that he did selling the match itself, and then this week, the video package, him explaining, you know, a callback to the first United States champion being Harley Race, and the love and the respect that Ciampa has for Harley Race, and kind of explained that or that race rather was the one who trained Ciampa and just everything, and that, and along with the robe, right? The robe that Ciampa was wearing being a callback to Harley race as well. It's just so many things that, like, little things, and that he was given actually a little bit longer. If you kind of notice the backstage segment, it kind of felt a little bit longer too. So I don't know, just between last week, the direction, him winning the 2 matches to even get to the opportunity to win a shot at the championship match, and the program and the build-up that they did, I just thought it was really good, and nothing, they didn't break the bank. It wasn't anything out of the box that they did. It was just a simple build to a championship match. And of course, the presentation of Bobby Lashley, y'all know how I feel about Lashley at this point, but I just really enjoyed it. And I was actually, I kind of found myself rooting for Ciampa in a lot of ways, so I'm not sure if maybe I should have been or not, because he definitely, I'm assuming, still should have been the bad guy out of all this, but I thought it was really good, and I just shout out to them for that. But I also love the thread that we're getting throughout each week, and through multiple segments, or obviously through multiple segments, but with different talent as well, and we're kind of blending different talent. Or I like that we just see, for instance, Bayley and her group are walking behind AJ Styles when he was doing an interview backstage. So I just love just little things like that, just seeing, wow, like they're actually, like, it's not such a sterile environment, like there's actually activity going on like you would expect to see in a backstage environment, other wrestlers walking around. So just little things like that was just really cool to me. But obviously the main thing that stood out in the thread, when you kind of go back and put everything together, there was this point of Monday Night Raw where Kevin Owens was being interviewed backstage in the parking lot area, and there was, in the background behind him, there was a car crash. A car had hit, like, it looks like a part of a wall, like a point in the wall. So they, and it was so funny, like, and I loved it, like, you had your superhero on site, Nikki ASH, and then Doudrop was there as well, and I believe R-Truth was the other guy there, and a few of, like, the production staff just kind of looking at the crash, probably talking about, like, just as you would, spectators looking at a car crash. So, but it was never addressed, and actually, I take it back. I think when Kevin Owens walked away or something, I think Kevin Patrick, or maybe at the beginning, there was Kevin Patrick may have looked over at it, but it was never specifically verbally addressed. And then later on, at the end of the show itself, at the end of the AJ Styles match, in the Miz, which was just very well done. It was a very good main event. There was some commotion. AJ won the match, and he was kind of he was celebrating, but not going crazy. He was just kind of in the ring, just kind of, catching his breath after just finishing the match and kind of soaking in the chants from the fans. And then all of a sudden, and kind of like the rear, I think it was like the right side of AJ, behind like where the ring post would be and the fans, the barricade, you saw a hooded figure almost, because of course, backtracking one step prior, you saw the fans, especially in the front row, their attention deviated to their left, I believe it was, and then that obviously kind of forces you to look in that direction as well to see what's going on. You saw this hooded man with gloves, and he just had his hands on the barricade, so you're like, oh shit. Like, for me personally, I was like, oh shit. It's like, your first thought is that a fan trying to jump the barricade. And the thing that really sold it for me was there was actual police guards and actual, like, police officers with guns, and you never see that. You always see just like random security, probably just random extra talent, and they threw a security guard t-shirt on and called it a day, right? Because it's normally just extra talent. But it was actual police officers who got Dexter Lumis, which we later found out who it was. It was the hooded man. They thankfully took the hood off of him, and WWE's Instagram feed got a great shot of him. But I loved it. It was just kind of being very subtly done in the back, and I love that AJ, first he kind of saw something like commotion was going on. He didn't turn around all the way, and then he did. Commentators rather, especially I think it was Corey Graves, he kind of notated, he was like, wait, is that Dexter? He's like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, is that Dexter? And you kind of could tell, like, he's kind of struggling with, should he even reference it? Is it okay for him to reference? Like, is this a real thing? Like, at least that's what was given off. So I just loved the whole segment. I loved everything about it, and it's a perfect way to debut and to kind of introduce Dexter Lumis, because motherfucker is crazy, right? Like, if you know Dexter Lumis and you've seen him in NXT, he gives you serial killer vibes, and he gives you vibes of like, this dude is legit insane, so you need to watch literally your back. So I think that obviously ties in with the car crash from earlier on in the evening. But I love the feeling that every show is kind of ending on a cliffhanger, and that you're just forced to tune in the next week and the next show. Like, for me personally, and I love that it's not the same character on both shows, right? So it's not like we end it Friday specifically with wondering what Roman Reigns is going to do on Monday. Yes, Friday involved Roman Reigns, but it involved the debut and the return of Karrion Kross. And the speculation and all the thoughts, like, okay, what does this mean for Drew McIntyre going forward? What does this mean for Roman Reigns? What is Kross here for? All that. So you're forced to tune into SmackDown specifically. And then, for instance, with Raw now, Raw ended with a cliffhanger with Dexter Lumis, this crazy motherfucker in the front row, trying to jump the barricade, being hauled off by legit police officers with guns. You know, I mean, they didn't have the guns drawn or anything, but it was on their holster. So that was the first thing that kind of stood out to me. Like, oh man, like, is this like a real thing? And then once we realized it was Dexter, it was like, wow, like, bravo, like, very, very well done. Like, again, it's the little things like that I just personally love. And look, it's not anything drastic, and it's not anything, again, groundbreaking or like phone a friend type thing, but if you are a wrestling fan and you're a fan that kind of specifically for WWE, you fell out because you got tired of the same old shit, well, this isn't it, you know? Like, I don't think any of us should have expected an immediate drastic change, like I said from the beginning, and if you did, then I'm sorry, like, you're just, that's just not the way you should go into this, you know what I mean? Like, we have to give this time to play out, and I think that it's just, I love the direction and the feeling and the excitement that we're getting. And look, we're 2 weeks into this, so like it's still super fresh, but I love the feeling and the obvious signs that there is changes being made. So shout out to Triple H, shout out to Stephanie and Nick Khan, and you know, for allowing Triple H to implement these changes, right? And I think obviously the next one that everyone is clamoring for is to get Kevin Dunn the fuck out, because of those camera cuts are just, sometimes I literally have to look away. Like, I'm not even lying. Like, me personally, like, you know, I've had concussion issues in the past. Like, just certain things just kind of fuck with me. So, like, I have to look away, you know, and that's not even being dramatic. Like, for the longest time, I just thought it was me. And so, obviously, like, a few years ago, I realized that it was an ongoing and a main complaint for wrestling fans out there. But yeah, he's got to go, you know, like, there's been a lot of great camera shots and everything, but, you know, the time is now. So I just wanted to kind of reference Monday Night Raw. Oh, and the last thing I did want to touch on here too, shout out to Angelo Dawkins. I love the no tank top, no upper body, like, wrestling attire that he had. He was just rocking the bare chest, and I love it. Me personally, I got the vibe that he was more confident, like, because you can tell, like, everyone talks about Montez Ford, and yes, for obvious reasons, but, like, Dawkins has been doing the work too, man. Like, you can tell he's been in the gym, he's been building muscle, like, dude, like, and it's really showing between, like, his physical appearance, but, like, in-ring quality as well. Like, the match he had with Rollins, it was very solid, and there was just a lot of moments in the match where it just really stood out to me. I was like, man, like, dude's really putting in work. So I kind of hope we get more one-on-one matches from Dawkins. To me, it would kind of, I don't know why it just popped in my brain, but it kind of reminded me of, like, an Anthony Bowens, if we're comparing it to, like, or bringing up, like, an AEW. And again, I have no idea why it just popped into my brain, but maybe because of the tag team side, obviously. But, like, for instance, like, when Max Caster was out for a little while and Anthony Bowens was out there on his own, there was one match in particular with Kenny Omega that Bowens just really stood out in. And again, I think this, not saying that Dawkins' match was like a breakout performance last night, or on Raw rather, but it really stood out to me, and I just shout out to him and all the work that he's been putting in, and whatever happens with the Street Profits as a team, I hope, and I'm more confident that this won't happen now with the new management in play, but I hope that they don't just drop Dawkins and just, like, discard him and put him to the side, because dude is worth what he's getting and then some, and he's definitely not a Jannetty or anything like that. So if anyone out there is kind of comparing him to that, like, like, dude is, if he was remaining complacent, maybe, you know, and if there was no obvious sign of progression or anything, then maybe, yeah, but, like, dude, especially the past 6 months or so, like, dude's been putting in the work, so shout out to him. I kind of wanted to touch on that before we wrapped up Raw here and moved on, but shout out to Dawkins, and of course Montez Ford, you know, kills it and his progression has just been fun to watch as well. But both of them, I think that they kind of feed off of each other's energy and each other's progression and each other's just accomplishments too. So I think they're a good dynamic, and I don't know, I'm very interested and curious to see the story and the play out for the Street Profits moving forward. One last thing I did want to kind of, I'm on my Monday Night Raw notes here. I was kind of debating on if I was going to just skip it, but I thought it was interesting, and then we'll wrap up here on Monday Night Raw. I thought it was interesting the comment that Rollins made and kind of referencing that he already knows what Riddle would say, is going to come out and be like, bro, 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 when he returns next week. And I kind of, that stood out to me because it kind of makes me wonder if we're going to get a more serious side of Riddle. And I say that because I think maybe a little baby seed was planted at SummerSlam. Riddle obviously wasn't cleared to compete. That's why their match was canceled. He came in, called out Rollins. Yes, Rollins got the upper hand. But even in that scenario, like, Riddle rather was serious. And it wasn't out there saying, bro, like hamming it up with the fans. Like, it was a more serious side. So I think between that and then obviously he's going to be even more pissed now that Rollins got the upper hand on him there. And the shit talking that Rollins has been doing since then. And so between that and I think with Rollins specifically calling it out, to me, I'm just really intrigued on seeing if we get a more serious side of Riddle next week on Raw. And if I hope so. Like I'm super clamoring for that. Like I'm a huge Matt Riddle fan, so I hope we get that. And finally, guys, we will wrap up with the AEW Quake by the Lake preview for tonight. Look, Sundays are my favorite day of the week, but if we're talking a weekday, Wednesdays are alright for me. Between the fact that it's hump day, we get Dynamite, it's just, I don't know, just something about Wednesdays just hits different too. If you live here in if you live here in Publix, if you live here in Florida and you have a Publix near you, there's $5 sushis on Friday, or on Wednesdays rather. So I mean, it's just good shit, guys, good shit. So with that out of the way, we'll get to the most important part of the preview here, which is the card. Right? You can't have a preview without the card itself. And I'm just looking at their logo for the guys. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not sure if you guys heard that, but my alarm just went off on my phone. Anyway, the preview for tonight's card. Of course, they're in Minneapolis, Minnesota, because that's why it's Quake by the Lake, right? So, the card and the official preview that we have here, we have the... What is that? Oh, yeah, look, I love just some things that AEW does. Just little things I love. Anyway, the inaugural Quake by the Lake event will be headlined by Chris Jericho challenging the interim AEW World Champion Jon Moxley. I'm assuming that will be the main event. So we'll get into the breakdown here. Also, we'll be seeing Madison Rayne making her in-ring debut, which is going to be, I guess, pretty cool. But the official card here is Darby Allin versus Brody King in a coffin match. We have Rush and Andrade El Idolo versus the Lucha Brothers in a tornado tag match, which will be just fucking insane. And I'm sure that's going to be Mimi's go-to match of the night. Shout out to Mimi in the wrestling podcast, or the WWE podcast, rather. We have Ricky Starks versus Aaron Solo. We have the return of FTR, which are your AAA, IWGP, and ROH World Tag Team Champions. So, be interesting to see what they're going to do, what they're going to say here on tonight's show, and hope they get an in-ring segment. So, that should be a sign that what's to come for them at All Out, and what hopefully they'll be involved, or their involvement will be in the tag team side for AEW. So, I'm hoping we get more progression on that and more just visibility for them on Dynamite itself. I think the story was that they were battling an injury from maybe Ric Flair's last match that weekend, specifically because they weren't on the card, right? Yeah, I think it was they had a match around that weekend or something to that effect. And then of course we will end. Well, I'm sorry. I almost skipped Madison Rayne. We will have the AEW TBS champion Jade Cargill defending her title against Madison Rayne. Not really sure why, unless I completely missed something. So if I did, I apologize, guys. But I'm not really sure why Madison Rayne is automatically getting a championship match. Just help me out there, please. I'm sure it's going to be probably good, maybe. Probably a decent match. And she is the coach, right? So it is her job to come in there and work with the younger talent. But like, it's just odd that it's a championship match. Just unless I completely missed something, which is very possible because, like I said, Battle of the Belts didn't record for me, and I didn't catch all of Rampage. So I'm sorry about that, guys. But finally, we will have what, like I said, I'm assuming. And a lot of times I assume I am wrong, so you know what they say about assuming. Your main event for Quake by the Lake will be the interim AEW World Championship match. Your champion is, of course, Jon Moxley, defending against Chris Jericho. Me personally, I don't see a title change happening here. They could, if Tony Khan is feeling spicy, they could do a title change here and have the JAS interfere, blindside Moxley, while the referee isn't looking, the referee's down, whatever, and then Jericho hits the Judas effect, or maybe even, was it Floyd or Lloyd, the baseball bat, makes an appearance. I don't know, we could go that direction. Like I said, if Tony Khan's feeling spicy, I don't think so, though, so we'll see. But I'm definitely looking forward to this lineup. I think the coffin match is going to be fun. I hope Darby wins this, because I don't think he's ever actually won a coffin match, rather. So I hope he actually gets his victory here, but then again, with it being against Brody King, I do not see that really being that sure of a bet. But with that being said, guys, as always, thank you so much for listening to the pod. You can follow us on Twitter at kickashpodcast _. You can follow me at ASHMANNS. You can always send me a DM. I'm working on getting better at responding to them and actually checking for them and just checking social media in general. But thank you guys, as always, for listening, and I hope you have a great night.